is. Hey, welcome to the Good Morning Wake Up Show, Friday morning edition, and we're really thrilled to have three guests today. Janet Ries is our first guest, and we've got Heather Bambrick, host on Jazz FM, and then Mena Canonico, who runs a horse farm, which is kind of cool what she's doing. And Janet is known as the money counselor, and we're all having issues, I think, with money these days. Hey, would you say that's fair enough assessment, Janet?
Yeah, like definitely. I think, people are filled with fear right now about money, about the lack of money, about job security, and the implications of what may or may not be, right?
Yeah, and so, we're all in this together. So, for me, when it's something of this magnitude, it's not like this is happening to you personally, but we're all in this together. And so that when I think of that I'm not the only one, I don't feel so bad. Like I don't worry so much about it. What are some sort of, maybe to shift our mental states and our fear and our worry, and will I have my job back, and will I have, because it's like people are taking on so much worry about it, and it's like that's not what it's about right now. I think it's really about just accept what is and really get into a place of trust that all will be well. What's your take? What do you think we need to do around our money conversation right about now?
Well, I totally agree with you. How we feel in our day-to-day life is something that I've promoted always, right? You can be wealthy, you can have 5 cars in the driveway, but if you feel unhappy in your life, that really is what matters most, isn't it? So at these times, one of the things that we have to remember is that we don't know what's going to happen. And we're so used to knowing. Our ego is so used to having control and, doing things to create a certain outcome. And that's one of the reasons this is so uncomfortable for so many people, because we're really being forced out of that egoic position that most of us have in each day-to-day to a place that's more present and accepting what is and focusing on what's going well right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yesterday the federal government here in Canada announced an $82 billion package for Canadians, and people are getting $2,000 a month, or not that that's come in yet, but that we've never seen anything like that, even in the Great Deal after the Second World War. And, where they revamped the system, we're seeing like trillions of dollars being poured into the economy. We're also seeing humongous job losses too. So it's like, this is so mammoth, so big that for you to kind of sit and fester and worry is not going to solve one darn thing. What's your take on that?
It's not going to solve. Not only will it not solve, David, it will actually perpetuate, right? Because we're not going to know the outcome of this for quite some time. And I think that we need to recognize that our emotional state really does dictate a lot of other aspects of our life, right? Like our emotional state really needs to be what we are protecting the most in this time. Let's face it, if we're afraid and stressed, then our children are going to feel that fear and be stressed. It's going to affect our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, right? Like addictions kick in, all sorts of nasties come to the surface when we have that really fearful vibration. If we believe in the law of attraction, and we think about a raccoon that's in the corner, you've cornered a raccoon. How does that raccoon behave compared to a raccoon that's walking freely 6 feet away from you in a field, right? People are the same, right? So we need to really recognize the importance of feeling peaceful and of feeling trust that, you know what, nothing devastating is going to happen in terms of our homes, because really, could the market hold all of the defaults in mortgages, right?
No.
The whole economy would collapse. So you know, I try to reassure people that the banks have just as much investment in keeping us all calm about our financial situation as we do.
Yeah, and it shows you, Janet, too, like that's the miracle of all this. Like I look for silver linings because I'm not seeing a lot right now. But
No?
I think there's not yet. You know, I'd like to see a decrease in the COVID cases. But if there's a silver lining in all this, is that it's amazing how interconnected we all are. You know, like the whole in 3 short weeks, the whole system's just collapsed pretty well.
Yes.
And so, you know, that to me shows me a couple of things. Like, you know, how strong was the system? Maybe now is a time for us to come together and build better systems that are more equal and fair for all. I mean, all people. What's your feeling on that? And have you been like getting these sort of downloads or thoughts or feelings about all of this, you know, from a money and economic point of view?
So your first question, what I feel about the stability of the systems, definitely we're seeing unprecedented times, right? And due to the amount of worldliness of our lives, of our businesses, of exchanging service, that's why we're seeing such a worldly impact of this virus, I believe, right? And so when we take that understanding on this greater level and look into each of our homes and each of our own finances, what's really beautiful is it's going to shine a really bright light on where maybe we have been a bit disillusioned about our sense of security, right? You know, I can speak for myself because let's face it, there's lots of us, me being a single parent now for over 3 years, who are asset rich and cash flow poor. And boy, oh boy, it's times like these that light just shines so bright, right? And so maybe at one time that was deemed okay and appropriate, and you know, maybe it was something people could brag about. But look at the reality today, right? Look at that reality today and how quickly things can change.
It's a level playing field right now, you know?
It certainly is, especially with the health risk, right? And again, I want to relate that back to our energetic field. And, you know, people who have good esteem and have a lot of self-love and have, you know, are able to communicate their emotions and who look after themselves with downtime and maybe monthly massages and walks out in nature, those people are going to be less likely to become ill, aren't they? Because again, if we are feeling well and healthy on a day-to-day basis, then that's going to bleed into the other aspects of our lives.
Yeah,
right?
and you know, I think one thing too that's really important, we talked about it a little bit off air here, and that's to really practice radical self-love. And also, and by that, it's like, what are you feeding yourself? What are you feeding yourself mentally, emotionally, you know, spiritually, and also with food and diet and nutrition? You know, really, I think we have to really feed ourselves with, you know, really a lot of positivity right now, to put it sort of like to capsulize the word. You know, you and I were talking prior to this about, you know, watching what you're feeding your mind, because it could trigger you and it could get you into a lower vibe. So do you want to speak to that about some of the people that are really maybe, you know, worrying about money and their finances, and going down that rabbit hole of
Yes.
the darker news that's out there about it?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to speak on that, because it really, to me, is the crux of what's so important. Because as you said, and as I shared, there's many different facets of our life that make our life experience, right? And being told what we should and shouldn't be doing right now can be very overwhelming to people. And I think the circumstances are overwhelming enough, aren't they, David? So I think the last thing we need, like, I don't know how many emails I've gotten from the banks and from different businesses and from, you know, people I subscribe to, all advice and updates about the virus. And it's like, I don't even read them, right? Because the reality is that we can simplify things one way. And that is kind of positivity, and I'll have a lot of people, you know, put me down for that. But the reality is our vibration and how we feel in this moment matters most. And it's going to have the greatest impact on all of those aspects in our life. You know, yesterday I had a hard day, David. I had a really emotional day. I had a difficult day. I'm a human being just like the rest of the viewers, right? And so I looked after myself. I took a nap. I had a cry. I went out in nature. I spent some time with my daughter, who I live with. And you know what? I was able to get through that really difficult day just by thinking to myself and tapping in, what do I need right now? The money, it looks after itself. It really, truly does. And if anybody who's listening can remember any difficulties that they've had in the past with regards to money, usually it's what we put our energy towards will create the outcome, right? So if we bury our head in the sand and we say, oh my God, I'm going to lose my house, and we drink ourselves every day and don't pay attention and don't think about it, you know, guess what? That's not going to lead you to the best place.
No, and it's not going to solve any problem.
No.
You know, I've been on this series this week of meditations by this fellow named Light. I want to get his last name. Anyway, it's through a website I follow called Commune.
Yes.
And today's meditation message was, I release all expectations. It's all about letting go. I release any expectations. And I think, and then I talked to a friend and she did a little Reiki with me, distant Reiki session. And it was all about just let go of the control. And you know, when you let go, you know what happens? You let God in. I don't want to get all like preachy on people, but you know, you let God in. And I think, you know, the more we try and fight and control it, and I do another meditation too. I do the Louise Hay meditations normally, like in the morning.
Nice.
And she talks about just let go, stop trying to control everything.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we've been led to believe we do control things, David. And I know as I get older, I realize I don't, and I never did. So you're right. Like when it comes to God or the universe or spirit, you know, whatever people believe, there is an amount of trust and faith that is required in life. And if you don't have it before hardship has a way of bringing it out to you, right?
You better get it now, because you're going to need a little, heap and healthy dose of it, right? So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So any other sort of like tips for people who are locked in fear? First of all, when you're locked in fear, you can't be creative. And if you kind of let the fear go and go, okay, well, what can I do now? What can I do? And it's all you can do is what you can do. And you just play with what you have. You know, this came out of, what can I do? Right? This very show that people
what can I do, right?
What can I do, and what can I do with what I have? So any tips, like you probably, all your money strategies that you taught before have just gone out the window, but any sort of strategies that you'd like our viewers, listeners to, take with them moving forward?
Absolutely. So as far as money strategies, they haven't actually went out the window because I've been teaching holistic money management for some time, right? And so there's a couple things I want to share. The first thing is look for what you're grateful for in the moment, breathe deeply and slowly, and find joy. Find something to make you laugh, make you smile, or feel a bit of joy. And if you can do those three little things, you're going to see an immense improvement in how you feel inside. Now, as far as a practical tip, definitely, if you are at any fear around paying your mortgage, then reach out to your bank. I actually reached out to a bank today and got some very good information. And so specifically for TD, but I know that they will all have these programs. There's no qualifying factors. Basically your debts have to be current, and you can defer up to 6 months of your mortgage.
Sweet.
And you can defer 3, and then you can defer again later further on if you deem, rather than do it all at once. And I had an extensive conversation with a woman at my local branch because I did want to learn. And it's funny, you're the first person I've spoke to since. I'm going to be posting it on my social media threads. And just to tell people, just go in there open. And like I said, they want to work with you. They want you to have less stress. They want you to keep your home. This is unprecedented. This is like no other qualifying, kind of baloney, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of my experiences with clients in the past has not been positive when it comes to qualifying. But with this is unprecedented. So definitely you can actually, if you have an online account, you can actually defer your own payments online, David. You can literally do it online. And again, this is only for TD Bank, but I really would trust that all of the banks are putting in place these same factors. So that is very good news for people today.
Yeah, and you're right. There is some good news happening. This $82 billion fund. If I got like 1% of that, I'd be happy.
I don't know if you'd get 1%, but.
And I posted the other day that like I bought a lotto ticket last Saturday, and I went, well, if I won, where would I go? So I don't even care about that. I think one last couple of little tidbits. One is, like, just again, I can't reiterate this enough. Let go of the things you cannot control that are out of your control. And then and what you said is really focus on your joy, focus on your gratitude, focus on keeping your vibe high. Would that really encapsulate your money strategy, life strategy, methodology right now?
Yeah, totally. Like it's all about alignment, and the alignment starts here. I also think that this is a beautiful, beautiful time when the road is less rocky, when you're feeling a little bit more stable. This is a beautiful time to reevaluate how we've been living our lives, right? Like I haven't seen so many parents playing with their kids outside, or so many adults walking outside. And I think that it's a great time to reevaluate things and really look at how you've been living your life, and is this okay with you, and what kind of changes do you want to make so that you feel better, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a blessing to me, actually. And with all due respect, with those who've been infected and who are not well, we are all at our place in our journey, right? And this doesn't dismiss me feeling hopeful and excited about the potential outcomes for families and for businesses with this crisis. Doesn't devalue or minimize the crises that are happening. I just want people to know that.
Right. One other quick point. We're waiting for our next guest to pop on, and that is you've got teenagers. How are they handling this, and where are they at, mentally, emotionally with all of that? Because like teenagers, They like to go out, they like to be busy, they like to do things, like to go to the shopping mall. How are they handling it?
Well, I'll tell you, my daughter who lives with me, she's 15, she's handling it very well. She's an introvert, she's creative. It's been a bit hard because she's not able to meet with any friends. They're, you know, a lot of them aren't allowed out of their house. And I understand that, but with social distancing, they could be together, just not together. Do you know what I mean? But again, you get mixed reviews on that. So she's handling it great. My other daughter lives with my ex, so I can't really speak for her, but I don't think it's going as well there. But, you know, what can you do?
Okay, cool. So where do we reach you, Janet, if we want to tap into what you're bringing to the table? And our next guest is here. Heather Bambrick is here. So
okay, well, you can always reach me at my website, themoneycounselor.com. There's my contact information on there. I'm also on Facebook, themoneycounselor.com, where I post daily. I'm running From Fear to Abundance group sessions on Zoom weekly, which are really affordable and have been really, really supportive and quite enlightening for people. So all that information is on my website. Thank you, David.
I really appreciate that. So if you want to stay
Thank
for
you.
the rest of the hour. We have a great guest next. My good friend, and I'm going to just share my screen here. This is who she is. She's a singer, Heather Bambrick. She's a host of Midday Jazz, a Juno-nominated vocalist who's played with so many people, and she's got just such a beautiful spirit. I'm so happy she agreed to be with us today. Heather's the voice on Midday Jazz from 9 to 1. First of all, how you doing? And also thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully.
Just wanted to make sure the mic is working all right. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this.
Hey, listen, at this stage in the game, I'm happy to be anywhere, you know, so.
Amen.
Yeah, amen is right. So the reason I wanted to have you on is I'm a Jazz FM donor and I listen every day and I'm hearing email after email and from your listeners saying Jazz FM is saving my you know what, my sanity.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about all that? And you know, is there did you come together as a management team and say we got a new purpose?
Yeah. I think we kind of knew already what it was going to be about. We kind of had a sense. I realize my computer is going to be dinging a little bit, so I'm going to close a couple of other things here. But I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Newfoundland, and we had just had what they called Snowmageddon in St. John's. So I knew that radio was a huge thing for that state of emergency. There was an 8-day state of emergency called for St. John's.
Yeah, you can go anywhere.
What's that?
You couldn't go anywhere.
Completely. Like you were just stuck in your house. Most people were actually snowed in, like it was up past their doors. So I knew that that radio was a big thing for that community there, and I knew that it was probably going to be a big thing for us. We do have really special relationships with our listeners, as you know. I mean, you and I have become friends through Jazz FM 91. So I kind of knew that there'd be something there. No one really knew how it was going to go. I mean, we had a lot of things going on. Like, we are a member-supported radio station. We go run by 50%, basically around, you know, give or take 50% donations, 50% advertising. A lot of our advertising are venues and live clubs and record labels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everything is kind of on hold right now. So we knew that advertising might be affected, and clubs, you know, wouldn't be doing their usual spots with us, et cetera. And we were supposed to have a fundraising campaign. So we had a lot of balls in the air and a lot of shifting to do as well. We weren't really sure how we were going to do it. I mean, we're a very skeletal group, but we're a very tight group and a really great team. And it's kind of evolving every day, to be honest with you. The number of emails I'm getting are mind-blowing. I can't keep up with them. So my weekends are spent basically catching up on all the emails.
Yeah, and you return and you reply to everybody, which is amazing.
Trying to. Yeah, it's a part-time job just to do that. But I think it's because people really feel that they want this sense of A, normalcy, B, connection, C, you know, that familiarity, that voice that they, I guess, it takes them away from everything that's going on, you know?
Exactly. And the music, you know, we were talking with Janet, and Janet was and I were talking about really keeping your vibe high. And Janet's a money coach, and I don't know how you guys aren't stressing out about the money, because you're right. It was your fund drive was supposed to happen last weekend, and then your advertisers are all gathering people, gathering at clubs and events and things. So, like kudos to the station and the management team for really keeping it together. It's almost like to me, it's like just keep on going, and everything will take care of itself, right? So.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you just got to have faith that things are going to work out. And I kind of have this whole belief system that's somewhat connected to karma. And I think if we're doing good things and going forward and trying to be there for people, they're going to be there for us too.
Yeah. You said you're from the East Coast, and I love when you do your Newfoundland accent.
Yes, bye.
Yeah. So, your upbringing, how did that help you have your disposition that you have now?
That's a great question. That's a question I've never been asked yet, and I mean that sincerely. My dad is a guy that says, you can choose to get up on whatever side of the bed you want to get up on, and he's always very much a positive, a positive viewing sort of guy. So I grew up thinking that, having that idea of, it's going to be bad, but let's try to do something else. Let's try to see some positivity. Let's try to go with something that's gonna, make this situation better, whatever the situation happens to be. My mom was also the type of person that always taught my sister and me that we're no better than anyone else. We're no worse than anyone else. We are all equal. Everybody is equal. And if you treat everybody the same way, if you treat everyone with the same amount of respect, if you treat everyone with the same sense of compassion, then you're going to do okay with life. So I guess it's mom and dad having instilled those values in me. My dad is just one of these guys that he really believed, if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. He was that guy. So I had really great role models. I really did. And I think that, combined with the spirit of Newfoundland, which is humor, which is laughing in the face of adversity, which is being steadfast, being true to who you are, being grounded, not being fake. Newfoundlanders are some of the most genuine people you'll ever meet.
Oh, totally.
And when you grow up around all that, that's when, you can't help but be influenced by it. So I try to maintain that sense. I mean, I'm still very much a Newfoundlander. I call myself a Newfoundlander and then a Canadian. Sorry, but I do, and so I think.
Well, you're a true Canadian. You just said sorry. So. The only thing missing is the Tim Hortons behind.
Exactly. Very true. Very true.
Now, also, Newfoundland. Growing up in Newfoundland, I mean, their climate is harsh. And it really, it can be unkind, and that's what I think we're going through now. We're going through this harsh period that collectively, globally, we've never seen before. So how did, even growing up in that kind of environment of these, I always see you're always getting snow for some reason that we don't get here.
They got more yesterday too, I think.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, enough's enough already.
All right.
So how did that, shape you too, growing up in the harshness of it? Because it's a land that with the ocean next to you and the storms and the seas, and it's like it can be raging sometimes. How did that also maybe shape you and form you to who you are today too? Well,
I think you kind of learn to accept whatever's going to be. There's this. I mean, you grow up right next to the ocean, and there's immense power there, and so there's that idea of understanding the power of nature, understanding you're helpless. So don't try to overcome it, try to work with it. So there's that sense. And then there's just that idea of smiling in the face of adversity. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's around the corner. You never know what weather is coming. You never know how cold it's going to be. So I think you learn to make the best of it. And I think, that's probably what's helped me even in my career. It's not an easy career being in the music industry. So I think just that idea of making the best of it probably served me as well as anything could.
Yeah, not taking it personally, and people are taking this personally. It's like it's like like just let go of any. It's not you. Just be,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about career, and I see a lot of musicians thinking of new ways of connecting and making things happen. What are you seeing in the music community, especially here in the GTA?
Definitely that idea of trying new things. So people who are used to, say, video performances, they're fine, they're set. But you look at artists who are getting ready to launch new projects, and they suddenly realize they can't launch it at a venue, they can't launch it in a regular format. So they're having to think outside the box. Artists always think outside the box, because ultimately every single time we finish a gig, we're unemployed until the next gig, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So particularly talking to younger artists, I'm hearing them thinking more and more outside of the box. So they're just forced by virtue of the fact that we're facing a situation like this to be more creative. So it's more using social media, it's more using digital formatting, it's more just trying to think of ways that you can actually make a living, and even forcing you to look outside of traditional when it comes to your own music sales and merchandise, looking at being more discerning, looking at what are the formats that are going to pay me more. Maybe don't focus so much on streaming through traditional streaming revenue, which is minuscule. It's negligible. There's no point in even talking about it, because you're not going to make any money streaming unless you're huge. So, suddenly you're looking at other formats that are just, okay, my return on this is going to be more, I'm going to get more return for my effort, for my, whatever the case may be, my product. So I think they're being a little more savvy in terms of what they're choosing to promote. And, the industry changes so much that this is just, this was a harder pill to swallow. No two ways about it, because,
Yeah.
no one's, well, teaching is changing. People are doing video lessons more and more now. I'm even seeing my friends who teach at institutions like Humber College and Mohawk, and that they're doing video, like full class lessons where you get 11, 15 people all doing exactly what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So I think we've always thought outside of the box. I think it's just forcing more creatively to think outside of the box.
Right. I saw a friend of mine lives in Napanee, and a local musician went outside his house and started to play music, and people came by within 6 feet and donated in the bucket. Right.
Yeah.
That's another way we can do it too. Right?
It's a really great way. And again, like, as you say, you kind of have to, try to get the income, while keeping social distancing and whatnot. But yeah. And I think, we are we're a social race where we need communion, and even something like that, like just performing for the public and just offering your services. I think that's what musicians can do, is they can offer, it's like soul healing, because, we're not out building respirators, or ventilators. We're actually, there's a different kind of healing that we can do. And I think that when people are doing it that way, it's helping.
Yeah. And I think we have to really realize the gift we have and what our talent is, and can we use it for good rather than evil, so to speak.
Amen.
I want to talk to you about, back to Jazz FM and what they're doing, because it's really incredible. You're a standalone station. You're not owned by the big conglomerate. You're really touching people's souls and healing people through this crisis. I have it on from 8 in the morning till the time I go to bed, and I just I love the music, and it really picks up my spirits. But you're also offering free shout outs and a little bit of a advertising, as it were, to companies and businesses that are helping in this time. Talk to us about that. Whose idea was that? How's that working so far?
Well, it's going well. What we're trying to do is basically allow businesses that are doing things, food delivery, pharmaceutical delivery, food takeout, any kind of delivery service, transportation services, really focusing on more food and pharma care. So many businesses are trying to, A, stay in business, and B, help out however they can. And it's hard to get the word out. So what we wanted to do was to offer the opportunity to get the word out and offer them some free advertising and basically say thank you for what it is that you're doing. I believe it was when I first heard it mentioned, it was our managing director, Lori Russell, who said, I think this is something we should be doing. And then they suddenly put together this this idea, and we created a web page and the whole bit. So it's been really well received. I'm very proud of what we're doing. I mean, we could be mercenary right now. We could say,
Sure.
well, there's limited advertising, so now you got, because we just lost some, so now you got to pay more.
Yeah.
But the team hasn't done that, and I think it's really great for communities. It's just a place to go. If you're living in North York, if you're living in Etobicoke, if you're living wherever, you can go to this one place and say, okay, look at the list and what's in my neighborhood. What are they doing? Okay, good. So we're trying to get things in all one spot, and then every day we highlight a couple of the businesses on air. And it's just a way of saying thanks for what you're trying to do to help the community. This is what we can do to help the community.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing so much. Jazz FM 91.1. You do have a bit of a soft fund drive going on where you're encouraging people to donate, and some donations are coming through. So
yeah,
where would they do that?
People can do it online at jazz.fm. We usually do two main fundraising campaigns in the year. We do one in the fall and one in the spring. Our spring campaign was supposed to start on Saturday, and we haven't been able to do it simply because, well, we were able to do it. We didn't feel it was the right thing to do in light of what's going on right now. We felt we didn't feel right. So we are postponing that. We're going to figure out when we can do that. But in the meantime, we still have responsibilities as a radio station, as a nonprofit arts organization. So we need to uphold those responsibilities to the community, to the artists whose music we play, to our listeners, to our advertisers, to the staff. I mean, we have a very skeletal staff and some independent contractors that work with us. And, you got to make sure that they're taken care of as well. So in order to do that, we're just saying to people, look, we're not running a fundraising campaign, but you don't have to wait until the fundraising campaign to donate. We will happily accept donations any time of year. And if you want to help out now, we're happy to accept the help, and we will put it to good work, to good use.
Yeah, and one thing I want to just acknowledge, and we'll wrap up, and that's how real you are on air. And you shared the other day that you've had emotional moments and moments of anxiety, and we all have.
Yeah.
And I really want to just, tip of the hat to you for being real, because I think, again, that's part of the way we comfort each other. It's like, hey, I'm going through this too, right? So.
Well, we're all in the boat together. I mean, we are, and we're facing the same issues. And if I have a moment where I can grab an oar, I'm going to row, and I might have to hand it off to you at some point in time. But we're human, and yeah, I have to get on the air every day, and it's a distraction for me too, to be able to talk about this music and joke and laugh and not focus on the news and not focus on the negative. But we've got to be real. Well, yeah, absolutely. At the same time, we still have to be real, and all that. But I think it's also important for people to know, I have moments where I freak out too, and I have moments I read listener stories and I choke up, and there's times when I'm pulling the mic off, going, I'm gonna cry in a second, But I don't know, if you're not real, really, what's the point? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of media and radio. I don't know how these TV hosts are managing, because they're just reporting, negative news and all the, and it's important, we need to know, but it's just in your face, like 24/7.
Yeah.
One thing for the people watching, do listen to Jazz FM, because there's no news from 9 to 6. And, if you need to get your updates, go elsewhere. But if you need a little bit of calm and reason and sanity in your life, just listen.
We're trying to be a calming voice. We're trying to have some moments of levity. The music is always great, and it's a real true sense of community. So, and people can listen online on the FM dial in the GTA. It's 91.1. We have an app that you can download from any app store for Android or Apple format, or you can just go to the Jazz FM 91 website, which is jazz.fm, and listen there. And if people want to support, you can also do it there as well, because any support is appreciated. And one quick thing where that's concerned, people who have never donated before, we have a lot of listeners who don't donate. If someone has not donated and they would like to help, any first time one-time donation. Right now, we're donating Jazz FM 91 is donating 10% of that to the Unison Benevolent Fund, which is an organization, a nonprofit arts organization that helps the music community across Canada. And right now, musicians are worried about how things are going to go. So it's just another way that we can help the musicians directly as well. So that's for one-time, first-time donations. And all the information's on the website at jazz.fm.
That's amazing. And that's tithing, if you want a nice thing to do, you want to tithe. And here I'm showing a picture of, there's Robbie Botosh, and I don't know if that's your friend on
That's that looks like Mike Downs, because Robbie and Mike and Larnell play together.
Yeah.
So Mike Downs on bass and Larnell Lewis on drums.
That was your Ross McIntyre.
Oh no, he's almost as good looking as Mike Downs.
Okay. Oh well, in that case. And Ross McIntyre and his wife and the cookies, right? She makes cookies.
His wife is an incredible cake designer and a amazing baker, and her company is Stacy Cakes, and so she's also a wonderful singer.
Wow, sweet. Heather, I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for this. You
My
can
pleasure.
stay if you got to press on. You want to go make dinner, go ahead, or lunch.
Oh, good.
Whatever.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Heather Bambrick from Jazz FM, jazz.fm, 91.1, worth listening to. I'm going to throw over to our next guest, and she's on the farm. She hasn't bought well, you did buy a farm, right? You bought
No,
okay.
not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Wait about 30, 40 years for that, okay? Thank you. So you have a horse farm called Liberty Lane, and you're doing some amazing work with horses. And there you are, you're like a lot of farmers, you're really excelling. You're outstanding in your field. It's not for me. I'm dating myself. That's Charlie Parkinson. You probably remember. Don Heron, one of Canada's earlier comics, and he used to say he would do this Charlie Parkinson character who was a farmer, and he'd say, "Yeah, I'm really good at what I do. I'm outstanding in my field." So you are outstanding in your field. I'm going to just share your Facebook page, Mena. You're doing some great work with horses. I wanted to connect with you today to find out, like, there's your site. Oh, I've got all, now everybody sees my Facebook messages. There you are. And Liberty Lane. We talked the other day, and the reason I wanted to have you on today was, what are the messages that the horses are sharing with you right now? What are you seeing in them through this crisis? What can we learn from the animal kingdom, which is really what I wanted to find out.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here and to share the energy here and to offer this space and the horses their energy to anybody who might be watching this. Because a lot of what this work that I do, it's all about the experience and how we feel in the presence of horses. So the horses are all about being in the present moment. So for me, and I think for probably most people on the planet at this time, I think the opportunity and the real invitation, and I believe on some level we've chosen this, as much as that may sound, well, it's just, tune into that. I don't believe that anything happens to us, it happens for us, and that we have agreed on some level that we needed some kind of wake-up call. So I'll speak for myself, even in saying that, one of the main reasons I came to love horses and decide to commit my life to doing this work was because in their presence, life gets really simple. And for me, when you take on the role of caretaking and I'm managing an estate and I'm doing all kinds of things, running around. And so this current climate right now is, and I actually created a meme on this back in January about how crisis is a wake-up call from your soul. So as many times, and so if you're listening to this, tune in and just say, okay, does this resonate? And I'm not saying you have to buy into anything I'm saying, just tune in to your own guidance I know for myself, I've been saying for a long time, I need to stop. I need to slow down. I need to get present. I want to connect more with myself, with the horses. And you just get caught in autopilot. So for me, and I think for many, this is an opportunity.
Oh, we just
Did I get a little?
Yeah, a little cut out. So you said to me, it's an
little cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. I'm just going to go through the barn to the office and see if we can get a more stable connection. My turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for us to reconnect, because I think also what's happening in the world is that there's all these things that we make more important, and we don't take that time to connect with ourselves. And so even if you think about any addiction, and by the way, we work with people who are going through any kind of major life challenge to help. And part of it is being out in nature. So with the horses, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day, they're prey animals. And so they will have a moment of fear if, let's say, the wind picks up and they can't hear, or whatever. If there's something that startles them, they'll become afraid. They'll be all alert, high alert, vigilant. They check it out, and then they calm down and go back to grazing. So for me, the message really is about, how much power do we give to the fear, and how we can overcome that is really by spending more time intentionally trying to get present. And because the fear is really coming from when we're spending time. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. When we're spending time projecting and thinking about, what if this happens? And what if this happens? What if this happens? And so if we can kind of step back for a minute and go, okay, hold on, right this second, is everything okay? So like the horses, right? They check, is everything okay? Yes. Okay, we're alive, we're good, keep eating, right? So I think what happens though is we get caught up in that flurry of, oh my God, what if, and we believe that we're not powerful, or that we have no ability to control anything. But we actually have the most thing that we have control over is how we react to something. So for me, what I've been doing for the large part is deepening my spiritual practice. Also, I'm not able to have people here to do the work with the horses. So, and I don't know if you've noticed, but like I've seen some really cool things happening on online and on Facebook, where people are coming up with all kinds of creative things, and again, as a way to reconnect and play. And I was just listening, there's a I don't know what to call him, but he's somebody that I spent a lot of time listening to, and I was just listening to him talking about how, when we were kids, and by the way, that's when my love of horses started, before I became afraid after a traumatic fall. We had no fear, right? It was all about, ooh, what's the next adventure? What are we going to play with next? And so I think we've got caught in this cycle. Not that there's no judgment around it. I've seen people say things like, almost like it's a punishment, like because we've done this is what's happening. And it's not at all that. It's really just a great and exciting opportunity for us to reconnect to who we are and to reevaluate, is this how I want to live my life, right? And if not, then, what am I going to do to change it? And that's where it's like, ooh, this is a little bit out of the comfort zone. I was afraid of horses 10 years ago. And I also left the corporate world, as you know.
Yeah, you started off at TELUS Mobility, right?
Oh, that was my second last out of a 16-year career in marketing. That was my second last gig.
Yeah, and then you got into your own coaching practice, and now you've got the horse farm in Caledon, right?
No, their horses are now in Hillsburg, just north of, well, actually not far from Caledon, but yeah, north of Toronto, for anybody who's in this area. So anyway, the thing is, even when I was in the corporate world, right, it was like, oh my gosh, I felt like my soul was dying, but I was afraid. And it took a long time for me to work up the courage. But at one point, it was just like, you know what? My soul is dying. I was about to turn 40. This was 13 years ago. And I said, I have to go figure out what my purpose is and make a difference in the world. And so I think there's a lot of people with a calling. Maybe they don't know yet what it is. Some of them do know, but they're just stuck on that treadmill and going, I know it, because I talk to a lot of people in that same thing, because I know that I'm here to inspire people to take that leap. And it's like, ooh, but I don't know if I can give up that paycheck. And I like to think that I'm a walking testimony to the fact that when you take that leap of faith, you will be met with the resources and whatever you need to keep going. And trust me, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know, because horses weren't in the picture at the time. I loved how you were talking about being real, because my first business was Dare to Be Real coaching and consulting.
Right.
And then came the horses. And here's the thing about the horses. They are 100% authentic all the time. They don't care what other horses think of them. They don't care what people think of them. So this is also part of the message for anybody who might be listening to this, is like, imagine what life would be like if we followed the teachings and the modeling of horses. And by the way, when you come around them, you can't fake anything. They're on to you, and we team up to help identify whatever ego mind stories, limiting patterns, beliefs that you might have that are stopping you from being who you really are. So that's, and that happens sometimes in an instant, where truth bombs come out and people are like, oh my gosh, and so I say this too, we're talking about healing, and to me, healing happens instantly with a powerful perspective shift. It doesn't have to be a long thing. It's just like, oh my gosh, I've been seeing this. There's been a misperception for all this time. So again, on the point of, this is happening because we haven't done this and we haven't taken good. To me, it's like, that's just how it is. We all chose to be on this path, and it's time to awaken for the people who are ready to awaken with no judgment. And that's another lesson and message from the horses. They're not judging. I think they're excited. They're here to raise the consciousness of the planet.
Wow.
And I think yeah, because they know things. I don't know how they know things. Can I tell a story?
Sure. I want to hear a case study too.
I'll tell a story just to give you
if Heather or Janet want to have questions after, feel free. Just raise your hand.
Yeah, cool. So just to give an example, I had an open house where I did a Meet the Herd event I'm on a tree farm here. The horses are on a tree farm, and there was people coming for Christmas trees. So it was a particular weekend, and there was one guy in the barn. It was the very first person that came in, and he found his way to Dream, who you had seen yesterday, I think it was. And he's a black and white paint. And so this gentleman, he was maybe, I don't know, I would say his early to mid 20s. And he's with Dream, and Dream is basically starting to yawn. And so basically in 4.5 years with this herd, I've tuned into their particular messages, and I know their language, and it's an amazing thing what happens. It's like magic. I can't even explain it. There's no adequate words. But anyway, Dream starts yawning. So when they do that, when we're doing this work, it's not because they're bored or tired. It's because they're releasing tension or frustration that person might be holding inside. So
Wow.
it's a way to help release that tension. Oh, I just had this idea. Wow. About how I should really do a meditation with the horses online. Because again, if I can't bring them here, people here, then I can bring the horses to them virtually. But anyway, so he's yawning. And so I said to this young man, I said, oh, so, based on his behavior, I'm getting that you've been stressed out a little bit lately. And he's like, yeah, right. Okay. So then Dream starts pounding or pawing on the ground. And so for me, again, I know the language, so I'm like, so now he's letting me know this is not just a little bit of stress. This has been some serious irritation that you've been experiencing. And he's like, wow, okay, yeah. So he tells me that, and by the way, he gave me permission to tell this story. So he tells me that he's just gotten out of the hospital. So I was like, oh, okay, I hope you're going to be okay. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be okay. Well, then Dream did something he's never done before. He started biting his hand.
The guy.
And yeah, the guy's hand.
Wow.
And he's never done this before. And so I'm like, dude, like, help me out here. Like, what does this mean? So I just kind of like tuned in, and the way he was biting, it wasn't like I'm attacking you, and it wasn't just a cute little nibble. It was somewhere in between. And so I went, and I didn't want to say this, but it came out. This is just, again, it's how it works. There's no filter. I just blurt what kind, and if it's, you know, if it's not correct, it's not correct. I'm not attached to what comes out. But I said, did you try hurting yourself? And so he tells me that he was in the hospital because he had just tried committing suicide.
Oy, oy, oy.
And he was like, oh my gosh, how did you know that? That's astounding. And to me, so from there was no judgment. The horse, basically they had this beautiful exchange. That young man left here a different man that day. I think he didn't feel judged. He felt only love. When he was saying goodbye, I said, you know, he's saying to his sister, I feel like a hug. And he had already left, and he came running back to give me a hug. And so the point of all that is on raising consciousness. Imagine if in a 2-minute exchange like that, that's what can come through. And the feeling, the sensation that he's going to be okay. That's just a little taste of what's possible when you're in their presence. And again, when I'm there to interpret and help you see what's not true or what illusion that you've bought into, right? So obviously this gentleman believed that somehow, you know, he couldn't be here anymore. But yeah, so they're here. They want us, my sense is, and not every horse, right? There are horses that are meant to be race horses. There are horses that, just like people, right? We each have our purpose. Mine are mostly former rescue horses, and their experiences have drawn people in that have had those experiences, whether they've been abandoned, abused, neglected, whatever the case may be. They've had trauma. I've had trauma. And it's funny because for all these years, I never really identified with that. And then it became clear. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been going through kind of crisis after crisis after crisis. And here's the thing. While this is all going on in the middle of a crisis, we can choose to do various things, right? We can be in fear. And I'm not saying it's easy to you know, stay at peace, but the practice is, can we come back to center? Can we come back to being present? And then meditation is awesome, great. And for me, it's about what else is there. And what if we looked at what exactly are the thoughts that are behind the fear? What are you telling? What's the story that you're believing, right? That, you know, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to, you know, what if somebody dies? Again, it tells me, or tells, if anybody's really serious about doing this work, it tells you what your thoughts are that you believe. So for example, and for me, I don't have the fear that I'm going, like, I believe that I'm meant to be here to serve for a while. So nothing's happening. I also believe that if somebody I know, you know, ends up passing, I believe, because I've had 3 transitions in 15 months this year. So I believe
your mom being one of them, right?
My mom, my heart horse Shiloh, and then my mom's husband. So all 3 in a short time. And each time I got to see how I believe they chose the exact moment, the way they wanted to go. So if somebody uses, and there's been a lot of older people that have passed, you know, they're going to pass with something. So, right. Sometimes I believe people choose, not sometimes, I do believe people choose. And that it's not just about what way works for them. It's going to be what's going to give the person or the people around them the most opportunity for expansion. So with my horse, oh, sheesh, I'm going to start crying. My horse is like, he inspired all of this. I was afraid of horses 10 years ago. And so what happened was, I believe that he knew he had to transition in part for me to stop relying so much on him and for me to stand on my own. And so my mom and my horse died within a year. And those were my two pillars that I believed I needed them. And so both of them in their passing allowed me the opportunity to really begin to see how I'm here and I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Well, I'm getting tingles. I think Janet is and Heather is.
Oh, really? I can't see anybody, so that's cool.
Okay.
I'm afraid to move. But anyway, so I think, there's a lot of people talking about how we coping, and I think, and again, this has been my practice. Every time something challenging is happening, I'm looking for, what are the hidden gifts? What are the lessons here? What can I learn from this? Why did I choose this experience? Why did my soul choose my experience for me? Then there's a difference. Here's the biggest teaching I offer for people, especially when they first come to see me. What happens is you have ego mind and you have your heart and soul. And a lot of people don't know that there's a difference. And they certainly don't know how to distinguish or decipher. Wait, which part of me is talking? Right? They're all kind of mixed, and we just believe that that's the truth. But it's about, how do you step back and go, wait, hold on, which part of me is talking? Is it, and I use the Flintstones analogy, the little devil, right? It's like, is this the devil? And you can tell, is the voice nasty, mean, fearful, whatever? Or is it, yeah, you got this, or that little whisper? It's about being able to distinguish. And I have a key from doing the work for over 10 years of studying my own patterns and beliefs. I have an ears, like as soon as I hear something, I'm like, oh, there's a belief that you have. So it's about what is this opportunity here to offer us? And as soon as you ask yourself that question, you have the power that you feel that you don't have.
All right. Yeah, totally. I'm going to just hold you for a sec, because Heather, Janet, do you have a question you want to ask of Mena? You just have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
This is Heather Bambrick, Mena.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Mena. I actually knew, I have a dear friend who was a horse owner, and she said the same thing. She said when she was going through, she lost important members of her family, and she said that it was the horses, her experiences with them, that got her through it. And she actually went to like an animal medium, to even get that much further into getting the understanding of the personality of the horses. So all that to say, have you experienced a situation where you've come across a horse, to your point earlier when you were talking about, certain horses are meant for certain things? How do you know, I guess what I'm asking, how do you know a horse is meant to provide this kind of spiritual support for people?
Do you mean a particular horse? How do we know if, oh, well, I mean, I think that's an individual thing. For me, this is what I know. And it started again with because I was afraid of horses 10 years ago. I only got these horses. My first horse, I got him almost 5 years ago. Actually, it'll be April 19th, it'll be 5 years ago. So when I saw him, and I met all kinds of horses, like I was on the journey of overcoming my fear. I was traveling the world. I was meeting horses around the world. And then as soon as I met him, the first time I saw him, and I started crying.
Wow.
The second time I saw him, I started crying. The third time I saw him, I started crying. And I was like, dude, you are powerful. I don't know you, but, and then, life unfolded, and he was owned by this woman. And I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to do workshops. I'm happy to pay you for the use of your space. And I started doing workshops, and he was Mr. Popular. There was all these other horses, but he was the one that, not that the other horses, didn't do any work, but, he was magnificent. And so that was the knowing feeling. And then it's really just the knowing feeling. I mean, I knew, I've been very clear for, since I got certified, I basically said, I'm going to have a healing retreat center with horses. 2010, I said that. And I put it out there. That's my intention. And then next thing you know, I saw him, he started it. And the thing is, remember, I'm afraid of horses. I'm also afraid that I'm going to kill horses because of childhood trauma. Okay. So, and that's been a big thing that I've been working through. But anyway, he started it, and every single one of the 8 that I've had, that I have, it was just this knowing feeling. And yeah, it's kind of also, before I went, and I adopted a few from a horse rescue place, there were 60 horses that were there, and I was driving there, and I just put it out there. I said, okay, if you want to cut this work, I'm going to, what's that? Can you hear me, David?
Yep.
Oh, what did you say?
I said you went into slow motion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to the rescue place, and I basically said, and it's Whispering Hearts Horse Rescue, and I basically said, I put it out there. I said, if you guys want, whoever wants to come and do this work and help me help people, then help make it really clear for me, because I don't know how I'm going to choose out of 68 horses, or however many it were. And so that's what they did. Every single one of the 4 made it super clear, and they came home.
Wow. Thank you.
Janet, thanks, Heather. Good question. Janet, do you have a question for Mena?
I don't have a question, but I tell you, you're inspiring, and I love it. And I think there's a theme today, David?
Yeah.
About following our soul.
Yeah, and letting go of fear. And I think, Heather, in your work, you totally followed your soul and your gift, and you brighten so many lives. This, what I'm doing here with this is following my soul.
Totally.
Amen.
Teaching.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's the beauty, that like everybody, the fear of, oh, I can't do what I really want to do. Right. And so here I've been struggling, because I'm like, I know I'm here to inspire people to take that leap of faith. But when they're so ingrained in the rat race and the being an autopilot, it was hard. Right now I'm thinking, wow, this could be a really good time as people start to really question,
Yes,
how they're living their lives, realize that they can create from a blank slate here.
Maybe
it's pretty cool.
Maybe that's really the gift in all this, that the quicker we lose our fears and we face them, because they're just fake anyway, false evidence appearing real, right? The quicker we lose them, because when I teach my sales courses, I talk about getting over the fear, making cold call. It's like, there's nothing to fear. Just you're going to hear no. Of course you're going to hear no. And the quicker we do that, and the more we connect to our true self, things start to show up and line up. And I think maybe that's the gift and really what's happening right now. And the faster we do that collectively, I think we'll have this, like I equate it to the guy who first was a Bannister, Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile mark. And then everybody started to break so the faster we do this, and people get through this, and we can show that it can be done for everybody,
Yes.
4-minute mile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jinx.
This is great.
I think again, it's about how can we be free from any attachments too, because then the ego can go, oh, you're not doing it fast enough, right? So it's just really to trust that everybody's exactly where they're meant to be, need to be. There's no judgment, it's like, and there are going to be people who aren't going to do that ever. And that's not part of their journey here this time. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you, if I can, yeah, here's one of the things I do a lot is I have like a horsey deck, like a tarot card thing.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to pull a card? Because
I thought
we went a little long, but I don't care.
What's that?
We went a little long, but I don't care. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't have to. It's okay.
No, I want to hear it. Pull a card for us and people watching.
All right, hold on.
You got a horsey deck, okay?
I got a horsey deck. Yeah, when I was traveling, I was in. I was in a lot of places, but I stopped in Colorado a few years back and met this woman named Melissa Pierce, and had a great chat with her and bought her deck that she created. So I'm just going to pick randomly and trust that the message is going to apply to whoever is listening right now.
And all of us on the call.
And all of you, yes. So here's the picture. Can you see it?
No, you're frozen.
Nope.
Oh, there, now we can see it. Yeah. It's
Yep.
a herd of horses. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the message is go with the flow.
Amen.
Perfect.
So I'll read it real quick for you. Energy and occurrences are all about you. You are being swept along by the forces of the situation. There is no time to stop, pause, and reflect, although there is right now, or strategize. Trust that the time will soon be at hand for rest and reconsideration. Well, for me, I don't really feel like it's a time of rest too much.
I don't either. I think this is like busy time.
Yeah, for now, you're being counseled to go along at the pace and in the direction of a leader, maybe even a leader whom you've lost sight of ahead, but you know is there. Put faith in the fact that you chose with purpose in the beginning and that all is flowing to the required destination at this time. Soon you will be able to make your own choices to continue in the herd or set your own direction. For now, allow yourself to go with the momentum. It has a purpose that will become clear to you soon.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Anna.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And you know, Heather, I see that at Jazz FM. There's like such a clear purpose. It's not even funny. And in your work. So just
Hopefully, yeah.
keep leading with that. Lead with courage and kindness and joy, you know, your song Joy Spring. And Janet, you know, like maybe we need to rethink money and our relationship. And Mena, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Can I just share an offering too?
Yeah,
One of the creations, I'd actually thought of this a while ago, but wasn't stepping into it. So I wanted to put this out there for anybody who is feeling called or would like some support. I'm offering chaos to clarity calls. So if anybody's interested in learning more about that, you can check out my Facebook page or call my number 416-999-REAL. And yeah, I'd be happy to support you. And if anybody feels called to support the horses in the meantime, again, feel free to reach out. Just like Heather, would love to, you know, anybody who feels inspired to contribute. All the support in the world would be appreciated.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Janet Ries, thank you from your home up in beautiful Port Perry. And
David.
To you today, just north of Toronto near Caledon. And Heather, I think you're in the West End, right?
I'm in Etobicoke.
Oh, Etobicoke.
Yep.
Yeah, it's west. That's
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So thank you, everybody, for this. I'm going to end the meeting or stop the
Thank you, David. And thank you for introducing us to each other, too, because it's great for us
Definitely.
to know about who we are and what we're doing. And I love these connections. So thank you. We're
Definitely.
going to
Me
go
too.
forward together.
Yeah.
I agree.
And now go listen to Jazz FM at 91.
Totally going